Chelsea 3, Legia Warsaw 0. Welcome back to FFB, amigos. And today we're talking Conference League action. Chelsea doing the business, traveling to Poland to an amazing stadium, to an amazing fan base that they have over there. If I can, I'll pull up just a couple of images or a couple of videos on the side up here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. It really was an exciting thing. Great environment. They had spoken about it before the video, and it was certainly proven. So at least in the first few minutes of the game, that stadium was jumping, and I mean every single person in that stadium was jumping, and it was a beautiful thing to watch. Chelsea did the business. Please like, please subscribe to this channel so we can continue making all these amazing Chelsea videos and watching these games that maybe you didn't have the time to watch and get a little bit of input from an impartial Chelsea fan. Okay, let's go through some notes. Before the match, again, the environment was the main thing that caught my eye. I thought the installations looked pretty beautiful. It seemed like a very pretty stadium. The people were really cool, so that was exciting. And that thing was roaring when people were waiting out in the tunnel to come out, and it was a pretty wide tunnel. Remind me of some sort of bigger stadium, so it's pretty cool. The team lineup was a little bit stronger than I expected it to be. And here we go. To be honest, even in these games, I do not want to see Nkunku anymore, and I don't think he's anybody's favorite, or nobody's a fan of him. No one wants to see him anyone ever again wants to see him playing a Chelsea shirt. And today was kind of an example of that. I'm starting to feel the same way about Sancho, although he did better towards the end of this game. But even in this game, sometimes we prefer to see some of the youngins. But I get the idea, put in a stronger team and then see if we pull the team out. Although, ironically, the strong team of the first half couldn't do it. But glad to see James in the middle. I think Dewsbury-Hall, this is a cup that's made for him, and he's able to play exactly how he wants. Very exciting to see. Absolutely a Chempong in there. And a little bit unhappy, but seeing Malagusto on the left-hand side. But somebody's got to be the cover for Cucurella, and I think Gusto is planned to be that, since there's a little bit more coverage on the right-hand side, so it's a way of testing him a little bit. Glad to see Towson was great in the air, and very happy to see Jorgensen, which we know he's just going to take a nap during this game. But I still like the fact that he can walk out during the game and get some minutes anywhere, as he should be getting them in the Premier League. In any case, let's get now into the match. So for the first, 30 minutes, the game is very boring, and the first half is really frustrating. Again, I'm watching this game with a watch along, and I'm jumping there and back, but I'm with the OG. I'm with George Benson most of the time. And all the fans, we're pretty frustrated. We're pretty bored. This possession game is going to kill us, especially because we don't see any patterns of play that are interesting. And by that, I mean that our wingers tend to play the ball back to our centers, who play it back to our defenders, who play it wide to our other, left back and to our right back, and just moving the ball around back and forth. And we try to break through the lines. We're sort of very ineffective at doing that. The last cup game that we saw, it was Dewsbury-Hall who broke a lot of those lines. And today he had a good match, and we'll get into that too. And as a matter of fact, in that very boring game, it took 34 minutes, I wrote it down, to get a proper shot on target, and it was Dewsbury-Hall. Their keeper did well to block it. But with having that possession, which at the end of the first half, I'm looking at it right now, we had 72, almost 75% possession, and we had attempted 10 shots on target. And the reality is 10 shots, out of which only 2 were on target. So that tells a story of how imprecise we can be. And a lot of them were very far off. And only 2 on target. That didn't really work the keeper, except for one of Dewsbury-Hall's matches. But that's kind of the point, is that why would we be happy enjoying such large amounts of possession, only play the ball back and forth? I think this is something that our manager, I'm not going to call him a manager. I'm not going to call him a manager. That our coach doesn't seem to be bothered by. So I think the players are going to play to that. And that kind of game, that kind of football also plays into really well that in modern football, many people are driven by stats, and even player evaluations are heavily influenced by stats rather than just the eye test. So if you don't lose the ball, if you maintain possession, those stats are pretty good for you, even if that means your team is probably never going to score under those conditions. I was happy to see Champong. I think he had a good match. He was breaking through some lines, but nobody was going to score. At the end of the first half, everybody's lost, in my opinion. In terms of offensively, there was no threats in the back. Nothing was ever going to happen. We had the game controlled, but there was no patterns of play, no preset 1-2s. And those long balls that I always speak about that I miss, yes, even against the low block, if your defenders can find if the nines are making some decent runs. And speaking about nines, we'll see in the second half, Tyrique George fell into that slot for quite a little bit of time during the game. So that was interesting. We get some substitutions in a minute in the halftime, and we have Colwell and Madueke come in. Tossin comes out, so center back, and we have Palmer out. Palmer and Tossin, so Madueke. And Madueke was, spoiler alert, the man of the match. He scored a brace. So, in the very first minute, Dewsbury-Hall gets a perfect cross. He gets alone in the box with a header, and he misses. So he could have had three, let's say. So it was a very poor header. But praise to him, we'll talk about that. He was in the right position. And then Tyrique George scores his very first Chelsea goal. How exciting it is for us Chelsea fans. Every single time one of the young guys scores a goal, he did really well. I think he slipped into a little bit of the 9 position, and he reacted like a 9. When that shot is taken, he makes sure he's on side, and he's the first one to run to pick up the rebound. Reece James finally, someone takes a powerful shot from outside the box. Keeper loosens it, and he's there to put it in. And it's not too long until, again, the keeper does a poor clearance. Reece James is able to head it down, intercepting the ball, passes it on to George, and George passes it to Madueke. No pressure on him whatsoever at all, and he's able to score. Minute 58, Cucurella comes in for Reece James, which is great. He's able to rest, and we know that with Cucurella, we're going to have a bigger offensive threat, a little bit more control of the game, certainly control the width. And then something tragic, the player we don't want to see play. First, it seems like Nkunku gets a penalty, which he doesn't. It's outside the box, but in the follow one, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, KDH. I don't know if he's worthy of an abbreviation, but I certainly love him in the Conference League. I think he's a good little squad player for us to have, so I'm not going to beat him up on that. Maybe not for the price we paid for him, but absolutely the kind of player you need in your squad. Plays multiple positions, can carry a game as long as the ones around him are doing good. And in the Conference League, he's done well. He showed up every single time. And he wins the second. He actually wins that penalty. And I say the second because it was like the second foul. Went outside the box, and Nkunku's bound to miss it. Who is this guy? Who is Christopher Nkunku? Who is this guy? This is not the guy that we bought in Germany 1 year prior, and we had to wait for him for a year to come. He's not the guy that we saw in preseason, like doing amazing and then got injured for a year. We've been waiting for him for so long, and I don't know what's going on. And I feel bad for him. I'm not going to be one of those guys, some of these fans that are always trashing and shit talking. I'm trying to not be that guy. But it's very frustrating to see him. And I think his levels have dropped so much that, yeah, he shouldn't be playing at all, not even in the Conference League. I think he might need a little bit of a break. And I'd like this kind of thing. It would have been nice to see people given another opportunity rather than him. He misses the penalty, a very poorly taken one, by the way. In any case, Madueke scores his brace. Things are looking nice and tight. And Miyuka comes in, and so does Mugu, which is very exciting to see. But then the game honestly is over. I didn't expect anything else to happen, anything crazy to happen. We just saw the game really well. The competition is not very strong, and I think that's more than enough. We technically play nothing but youngsters on the return leg. I wouldn't advise doing that because I still want to see some of these players enacting patterns of play, which we're not seeing offensively. And these games are good practice, even if it's for 20 minutes that a full strength team comes in, puts in a couple of patterns of play against the low block, which we struggle with. And given the game that we have coming up, which we're going to talk about, that's something we certainly need to, would have been good practice today. And we're certainly on Sunday, we need to handle business. In any case, man of the match, it has to be Madueke. Look, I think man of the match up until that point was Dewsbury-Hall, because yes, he wasn't precise in finishing. No one is, not even our strikers at Chelsea, but he was very organized, tactically aware, kept the ball moving and things ticking in midfield, and absolutely found himself in the right places all the time. And I think that was a great credit. But once a guy comes in and scores a brace, then you're kind of out for man of the match. But he gets an honorable mention. Obviously, man of the match goes to Madueke. What's next? We've got the return leg on Thursday, so please subscribe so I can continue to make these videos and prepare that video for you. Also, first, before that match, we have to beat Ipswich at the weekend. Low block competition, difficult times. And also, I'm going to be making, since I already got myself into hot water, and I'm so glad I did, the Arsenal Real Madrid return leg. I'm very upset that I did because the one game I decide to watch of the Champions League in a while, and hoping that Arsenal gets spanked, they do probably the best game of their lives in the Champions League, certainly of this Arsenal, and become a scary proposition, which likely to qualify against Madrid. But they are the bottlers in chief, and Real Madrid are the fighters in chief. They can win a game in the last 30 seconds, and the others can lose it. So yeah, it should be in the bag for Arsenal, but hey, it's the Bernabeu. So let's see what happens on that. So I'll certainly be making the videos. So those are the videos coming up. With some of them, we'll have their preview video as well. So as always, that's all for today. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. And as always, to the Chelsea players and the Chelsea fans, come on, you Blues.